as they say, and also following developments there. So stay with us here on eNCA, DSTV channel 403. Now, although the country, as you well know, has had a lot of rain recently, including this week, experts are saying primarily rain-fed agriculture will be put under pressure soon. Why? Because the 4-year cycle of La Niñas above normal rainfall is drawing to an end. According to the International Research Institute for Climate, El Nino is predicted to begin by the end of this year. Now, El Nino is largely responsible for dry spells. And the Agricultural Business Chamber says food security may soon be at risk due to El Nino's effects on the weather. Well, let's look ahead and discuss this now with the Chamber's Chief Economist, Wandile Sihlobo. Wandile, welcome to today. Thank you very much for your patience and your time this afternoon. So you are anticipating that after the beautiful La Nina has blessed us with so much rain, although, of course, that has come with some damage to infrastructure, flooding and loss of life, the agriculture sector now should brace itself for a dry spell from later this year.
Yes, I think, Braden, good afternoon. One of the things we need to appreciate is that this has been an unusual period. We haven't had 4 seasons of above normal rainfall in a long period. The last time we saw 3 consecutive seasons of good rainfall was around about 2008 or so. And of course, this party was due to end at some point, and I think it is ending towards the end of this year. We already see in the forecast that somewhere around about October this year, the probability of an El Nino occurrence, it's already over 50%, which means that we will be entering a period of below normal rainfall in much of South Africa. And that, as you rightly said, it has implications for agricultural productivity. And that's what we're cautioning about, to say, look, yes, now lots of rain, lots of agricultural produce that is coming out in some of the fields. But when we look ahead, there may be some difficulties. Then farmers have to look about the ways of saying, how do you conserve soil moisture so that even if the next season is tough, you are still able to thrive and get through that. That's the gist of that view that we're putting forward.
Yeah, I mean, we are a water-scarce country, so preserving whatever water resources they may have for now due to the effect of La Nina over the last 4 years, as you've said, they need to start preparing for the dry spell. And I know you're not a weather economist or meteorologist, Wandile, but you've just mentioned 4 years. I'm thinking, is it going to be a 4-year dry spell? Because that will really be tough on the agricultural sector. So what kind of measures would you want to see as the Agricultural Business Chamber the farmers take now ahead of El Nino later this year? And what kind of support do you think they would require from government?
I think, Braden, the first point to put forward here is that we by no means are trying to put an alarmistic view to say, look, a drought is coming, difficulties ahead, but rather to make a point to say, look, we are exiting this period of favorable rains. Then the question that remains, Braden, is whether we will have a mild drought like what you saw in 2018, because in that year we were in an El Nino period, but it was fairly mild, or a harsh one. And you may recall this in 2015-16. That was a difficult period where really the drought was widespread across the country. But from where I sit and looking at the soil moisture right now across the country, I do think that we will have a scenario that will be pretty much more mild like what we had seen in 2018, which then means that we may be able to continue with our agricultural activity fairly smoothly, and that will be a relatively positive stuff. What should farmers be doing in such environment? I do think that the most important thing, Braden, is ensuring that then whatever planting activities that one does, you go towards the no-till farming. You do what we call fallow land, where you leave certain areas unplanted, because that helps in conserving the soil moisture. But I think the guys is just also to be prepared as they buy inputs that they will be going in a cycle that is slightly different from the previous one. But still, it won't give them the nightmare that they experienced in 2015-16. At least that's what we're seeing with these forecasts that we have, and understanding the soil moisture on the ground.
Yeah.
Then the last point about what support governments should put, Braden. I mean, it's a fiscal constrained environment, and I think any support will largely be for smallholder farmers, and even that it will be put in place upon assessing what the real impact in real time at that point will be.
Yeah, so this advance warning is, I guess, is saying there's no panic, but be aware that weather patterns will be changing from late this year. The rain that we're seeing currently, part of this wonderful wet 4-year cycle, will not be sustained beyond the end of this year. Therefore, make sure that you address any risks as attached to farming and food security.
Absolutely, Braden. That's our interpretation of all of the data that is coming. And I must say, though, Braden, that we are having now, with all of the difficulties you've outlined throughout this program, the damage of rainfall, the agricultural conditions at this point, looking at them broadly in South Africa, are fairly favorable. We're looking at a decent crop. And of course, when you think about the food prices, food price inflation, slightly moderate from last year. We're looking at something between 7 and 8%, slightly down from about 9.5% of last year. Of course, this is also pushed up by energy costs related that we baked in on those numbers. But I still think that this is a better year. Then going into next year, we will be going with a relatively decent stock level in some of our staples. So whatever happens in as far as the harvest that will come out on the ground, it will not be that it takes from a base that is already low. It will be from a fairly decent base of agricultural produce supplies that we'll have.
Thank you again, Wandile Sihlobo, for your patience this afternoon. Thank you for your insights. He's the Chief Economist at the Agricultural Business Chamber. Well, be advised, as we edge towards the close of the year, we might be going to a drier spell than we have seen over the last 4 years, including at present across the country. And please do take care.